Hello, welcome to Gurukul's CAT 100 series, a series that's designed specifically to take you from your study room to the corporate boardroom. I am Prady Sharma and this is Verbal Mastery with Prady.
Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Now, in case you want to take this up as a test, then all you've got to do is go on to www.thegurukul.org.in and register for the 100 Days to CAT test series. In case you want to follow along with this video, then this is your passage for the day. This is the first paragraph. Pause the video here, read this paragraph, and then we're going to move on to the second paragraph. This is your second paragraph. Pause the video here, read this paragraph, and then we're going to move into the third paragraph. This is your third paragraph. Pause the video here, read this paragraph, and then we'll move into the questions of this passage. This is your question number 1. Pause the video here, answer this question, and then we'll move into the second question. This is your question number 2. Pause the video here, answer this question, and then we'll move into the third question. This is your question number 3. Pause the video here, answer this question, then we're going to move into the fourth and the last question of the day. This is your last question for the day. Pause the video here, solve this question, and once you're done, comment down all the answers that you've gotten so that we can verify at the end after the explanations how many you've gotten correct. Now, without further ado, let's move into the passage and question explanations. So, what's being told about in this passage? In this passage, he's saying that understanding where you are in this world is a basic survival skill, which is why we, like most species, come hardwired with specialized brain areas to create cognitive maps of our surroundings. So, what are cognitive maps? Maps that we make in our own head with our imagination, right? Where humans are unique, though, with the possible exception of honeybees, is that we try to communicate this understanding of the world with others. So, basically, what ideas am I getting from this part of the passage? I get one very simple idea that knowing where you are is important. Okay, so knowing where you are is important, and not only knowing, okay, but communicating about that knowledge is also very, very important, and we're probably the only species who does this. We have a long history of doing this by drawing maps. So this communication is happening through maps. That's the next part that I get to understand. Okay, so we have a long history of doing this by drawing maps. The earliest version yet discovered was scrawled on cave walls 14,000 years ago. Human cultures have been drawing them on stone tablets, papyrus, paper, and now computer screens ever since. Given such a long history of human map making, it's perhaps surprising that it's only within the last few hundred years that North has been consistently considered to be at the top. So now what's he saying? Yes, okay, we've been doing this for so long, but it's perhaps surprising, okay, that it is only within the last 100 years or so, okay, last few hundred years, that North has been consistently at the top. In fact, for much of human history, North has almost never appeared at the top. According to Jerry Broughton, a map historian, North was rarely put at the top for the simple fact that North is where the darkness comes from. He says West is also very unlikely to be put at the top because West is where the sun disappears. Fair enough. So, now what's the major bone of contention? Okay, North is at the top, but how? That is what we are looking at. And Mr. Jerry Broughton, what does he say? North and West were not at the top usually. Why not? Because North had darkness coming from it, and West because sun goes down in the West. So this is what I get from this particular paragraph. Now let's move into the second paragraph. Confusingly, early Chinese maps seem to buck this trend. But Broughton says even though they did have compasses at that time, that isn't the reason why they placed North at the top. So we see in the previous paragraph that there are two reasons why North and West are not at the top, but Chinese people or Chinese maps, okay, they seem to put North at the top. But that is not because of compasses. That's what he's clearly telling us, that it's not because of compass. Then what is the reason? Early Chinese compasses were actually oriented to point south, which was considered to be more desirable than the deepest, darkest north. But in the Chinese map, the emperor who lived in the north of the country was always put at the top of the map, with everyone else, his loyal subjects, looking up towards him. So basically what's saying, JB is saying is that Chinese maps, these put north at the top. Okay, these put north at the top, but this is not because of the compass. In fact, compass points towards south, okay, but because of the emperor, okay, because the emperor is in the north, that is why North is at the top. So everyone else is looking up towards him. Right. So in Chinese culture, the emperor looks south because it's where the winds come from. It's a good direction. North is not a very good direction, but you're in a position of subjection to the emperor, so you look up to him. So basically, let's say that if this is my layout, this is north upwards, then south is downwards. Okay, from south to north, the wind is flowing, which is why the emperor is looking at you this way, and all of his loyal subjects are looking up, which is why north is put at the top. This is a kind of representation that has been happening. Okay, now let's go forward. Yes, given that each culture has a very different idea of who or what they should look up to, it's perhaps not surprising that there's a very little consistency in which way early maps pointed. So everyone has their own opinions of who needs to be respected or what needs to be respected. Because of what needs to be respected, there's very little consistency. That means similarities between which direction is at the top is different. Okay, it's very less. In ancient Egyptian times, the top of the world was east. So again, Egyptian times it was east. Why? The position of sunrise. So Egyptian, now another idea that I get over here is that Egyptian times, or we had east at the top. Why? Because of sunrise. Okay, early Islamic maps favored south at the top because of the early Muslim cultures were north of Mecca, so they imagined looking up towards the south. So if I'm looking at Islamic maps, okay, they had south at the top. Why? Because they lived at north of the Mecca. All right. And towards it, Christian maps from the same era called Mappa Mundi put east at the top towards the Garden of Eden and with Jerusalem in its center. So if I'm looking at it that way, the Christian maps are putting east at the top again. Now, these two, Islamic and Christian maps, are because of religious reasons. Okay, obviously this Egyptian map is because of the sunrise. That's what I understand from this particular paragraph. So let's move forward into the next paragraph. So when did everyone get together and decide that north was at the top? So till this point, we still haven't figured out, okay, when did people even come up with this whole point of north being at the top? It's not been told. He's just told us about different ways maps were made, but nowhere about why north was at the top. It's tempting to put it down to European explorers like Christopher Columbus and Ferdinand Magellan, who are navigating by the North Star. Now guys, please note it here that it's tempting to put. He's not attributing it to them. He's saying that it's very, very easy for us to attribute it to them, but that's not correct. That's the kind of tone he's taking. But Broughton argues that these early explorers didn't think of the world like that at all. So we could think that maybe this Columbus and Ferdinand, okay, they were navigating looking at the North Star, so we put north at the top of the map. But these people did not think of the world like that. When Columbus describes the world, it is in accordance with the east being at the top. Columbus says he's going towards paradise. So his mentality comes from a medieval Mappa Mundi. We've got to remember, adds Broughton, that at that time no one knows what they're doing or where they were going. So basically when Christopher Columbus was talking about going somewhere, he said that he was going towards paradise. So he was probably going towards east according to the Mappa Mundi. So obviously they did not think about north being at the top. In fact, he lastly adds that no one knew what they were doing or where they were going. So obviously there's no consensus on who put north at the top. Now let's move into the questions of this passage. Question number 1 says, which one of the following best describes what the passage is trying to do? Now, what is this passage talking about? Now, this kind of question is what we call as a writing style type of question. So let's see. It questions on explanation about how maps are designed. Now, again, there's no questioning that's involved over here. He's not questioning any one particular explanation about how maps are designed. He's saying that these are the different explanations why maps were designed. It corrects a misconception about the way maps were designed. Okay, fair enough. Now, the misconception here is that north is always at the top, or someone put north at the top, which is what it's correcting by giving us the different ways maps were designed. So this could be one possible answer. It critiques a methodology used to create maps. Now again, he's not saying that one methodology is wrong or the other one is correct. He's nowhere saying that some certain religions putting east or south at the top is wrong. He's just saying that these are the different ways in which maps have been made. So definitely not A or C. D, it explores some myths about maps. Now these are not myths. Okay, a historian has stated these as facts. So definitely these are not myths. These are not just stories, right? So we can remove D. The best possible answer for us becomes B. Now let's go to the second question. Second question, early maps did not put north at the top for all of the following reasons except. So please read this question carefully. Early maps did not put north at the top of for all of the following reasons except. That means what could be the one reason that early maps actually put north at the top? That's the whole way we have to understand this. North was the source of darkness. Obviously they did not put this at the top. Yes, so this is not going to be my answer. South was favored by some emperors. Fair enough. because south was favored by some emperors, everyone was looking towards north, towards that emperor. That is why we might have put, north at the top. So this could be an answer. East and south were more important for religious reasons for some civilizations. Great, that is why you did not put north at the top. No, so it does not become an except answer. East was considered by some civilizations to be a more positive direction. Yeah, fine, sunrise is coming and all, Egyptians thought of it. But that is why you did not put north at the top. So the only way in which you put north at the top in this question is B. So our correct answer would be B. Now if we move to the third question, according to the passage, early Chinese map placed north at the top because. So why did the early Chinese map place north at the top? If we look at the passage, we clearly see that early Chinese maps placed north at the top because they respected their emperors. In fact, other maps also put certain directions at the top because they respected certain things. The Islamic people and Christian people respected their religion, which is why they put south and east respectively. That way different people had different priorities. Now for the Chinese people, the priority was the emperor. So which option fits that the most? B fits that the most when they say they wanted to show respect to the emperor. So this should be a very good answer. But A, the Chinese invented compass. Obviously, Broughton had already told us that, yes, Chinese put the north at the top, but it had nothing to do with the compass, so I can remove this. See, the Chinese emperor appreciated winds from the south. Now, a lot of you might have been confused with this option. Obviously, this is also correct in the sense that, yes, Chinese emperor appreciated the winds from the south. But just because Chinese emperor appreciated the winds from the south, you didn't put the north at the top. You put north at the top because you respect the Chinese emperor. Okay, so this is an indirect way to say things, so we are not going to consider this. D, north was considered the most desirable direction. In fact, in the passage, he has given that this is an opposite statement. North was not a very desirable direction, right? So this is what we call as an opposite answer, so we're going to remove this. The best answer again is B. Now let's go to the last question of the day. Which one of the following about the northern orientation of modern maps is asserted in the passage? Now, what did he talk about northern orientation of modern maps? Okay, that's what the question says. The biggest contributory factor was the understanding of magnetic north. Now, about magnetic north, about compass and all, he did not say that anything pointed towards it, and especially this is not only about Chinese, right? Overall, right? What did we think, when we read the passage towards the end of the passage, what did we realize? We realized that the biggest contributory factor or why north was put at the top was not really told to us yet, right? So obviously A is not going to be my answer. Biggest contributory factor was the role of European explorers. Now, again, in the last part of the passage, he clearly says that you might be tempted to put it or attribute it to these people, but they didn't think of the world that way. So that one line clearly tells me that it's not European explorers who played any role in bringing up north to the top of the map. See, the biggest contributory factor was the influence of Christian maps. Again, if it was the influence of Christian maps, east should have been at the top and not north. So definitely not C. Biggest contributory factor is not stated in the passage. Obviously, we still don't know why north is at the top. So the best possible answer would be D. Now that we've come to the end of this video, please tell us how many questions you've gotten correct. Drop a like because that motivates us a lot to keep bringing these kind of videos for you and helping you in your CAT 2025 prep. Share this video with a friend who's preparing for CAT 2025 but does not have enough resources to prepare for, and I'll see you in the next video.
Hope you enjoyed learning from today's session.
This series is designed to help you with your CAT preparation and practice daily. We are with you in this journey.
To watch the next video, click here. And to watch Gurukul's CAT 100 series, study room to boardroom, the entire playlist, click here.
If you learned from today's session, like, share, and subscribe.